House in Baltimore as Minnesota, where the Ravens were handled quite efficiently by the Minnesota Vikings up there at the beautiful new Glass Stadium. We're going to have Super Bowl to be held in about 13 weeks. And the quick turnaround. Thursday night, the Miami Dolphins will make their way north to take on the Ravens. Not much to recommend the Ravens right now. Certainly from the Dolphins' record, a lot to recommend them. But the more you do a deeper dive into the Dolphins, the more you see that they have their own deficiencies, including starting Matt Moore, who really is their third quarterback at this point. Alan Poupart covers all things fish and fins for the Dolphins and Dolphins.com. He is the lead writer on the website. You can follow him at A Poupart. That's Poupart, Fins. He is one of our defending champions as well as the editor of the Dolphin Digest. Alan, what's going on, man? How's life down there in South Florida? Bring some more of that sunshine up here. I had to wear a sweater here the last couple of days.
Well, it's actually, we're finally getting a week where it's not 95 degrees every day, so we're kind of enjoying getting quote-unquote cooler weather down here a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I guess the team is sort of hot by a record standpoint. I mean, 4-2 is nothing to sneeze at. Coming off the playoffs last year, working on a third quarterback, having comeback wins against the Jets. Although that remains to be seen how impressive that is. But I certainly respect the Dolphins coming up here on Thursday night on short rest. A lot of these road teams have fared well, and the Ravens are really, really struggling right now.
Yeah, and it would be a big mistake to dismiss this Dolphin team because of their shortcomings. And let's be honest, there are shortcomings, starting with the fact that they're second in the league in total offense. And they are on their third quarterback. If you go back to the summer with Ryan Tannehill and then Jay Cutler and now Matt Moore. But again, this is a team that always finds a way to win, or almost always finds a way to win. It's really uncanny. Ever since Adam Gase took over as head coach of this team, they just always pull out the close wins. They're on a streak of 12 consecutive wins in games decided by 7 or less, which is too short of the NFL record. They've shown the ability to come back, and they always seem to come up with a play at the end of the game, and that comes from the head coach who's instilled in them this swagger, this confidence that no matter what, things will work out. I mean, and against the Jets on Sunday, it was a last-minute interception by Bobby McCain on a pass that Josh McCown had no business throwing. But nowadays, it's Dolphin opponents who make these kinds of mistakes. The Dolphins capitalize on them, and not vice versa, which is why, again, last year Dolphins made the playoffs. They were 10-6, and they're 4-2 this year. And you can look at all the statistics you want, but bottom line is they're 4-2.
Matt Moore. What's wrong with Matt Moore, right? I mean, I had to go get Jay Cutler back there about a week before we got there for the preseason game back in August. And, now Cutler's going to be gone at least a couple of weeks here with this rib situation. Matt Moore steps back in. I mean, he certainly knows how to drive the car. He's been there a long time.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with Matt Moore. Matt Moore is a very fine quarterback, could start for several teams around the NFL. It's just that when Gase took over as Dolphin head coach, he saw Ryan Tannehill, a guy who he liked, who he saw a lot of potential in. And when Tannehill got hurt this summer, he thought, I have Jay Cutler, a guy who I've worked with before, who had a very good season under my system, who's got loads of physical ability. Let me go see if I can talk him out of retirement. And it worked. And that keeps this great insurance policy of Matt Moore as a backup. And Matt Moore's a guy who is a great team player. Everybody on this team loves him. And when he comes in, he brings a certain energy to the team. He's not afraid to chuck it. He will make a throw here and there where you're scratching your head as in, what are you trying to do here? But he also makes a lot of plays, which is what he did against the Jets on Sunday, bringing the Dolphins back from a 28-14 deficit. So this team can win with Matt Moore. They did it at the end of last year, and there's no reason to think they can't do it again this year.
Well, I mean, say what you will about Cutler, but he's gone for a couple of weeks. Left the team in pretty decent shape. I mean, team's 4-2 right now, coming in against a struggling team, another struggling team with Oakland down the line. I know the Dolphins have lost their bye this year based on the Storm and the Tampa Bay game, that they're going to make that game up the week before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, so you don't have that going for you. But at least Cutler has given the franchise a credible chance here to be very much in this thing come Thanksgiving. And then you have those games with New England coming up later in the year. You play New England twice in 3 weeks. It's a really weird scheduling thing, but certainly if you hit it at the right time at that point, that's where you're going to make hay. That's where you're going to rise or fall in these games against the Patriots, I think, right?
Yeah, and you want to talk, this is how weird this schedule was. They're already done with the Jets after the game last Sunday. They haven't played Buffalo yet. They haven't played New England yet. They played New England twice in 3 weeks, as you mentioned, in December, and they played 2 of their last 3 games of the season are against Buffalo. So, yeah, it is a very weird schedule that they were handed. And going back to Cutler, the truth is Cutler was not playing particularly great football for most of the early part of the season. He actually was starting to come on a little bit with the second half in Atlanta week from Sunday, and then Sunday against the Jets started off very well at 2 first half touchdown passes before he got hurt. So he was starting to pick things up, but what's carried this team in the early part of the season to that 4-2 records has mostly been the defense, which has been lights out. And then what happened on Sunday, the defense didn't have a great game, particularly in the first half. They got kind of rolled over by the Jets. But what happens, and in the second half, the defense stiffens up, and then the offense comes to life and scores 31 points. So, again, this is a team where whatever needs to happen seemingly happens quite a bit, and they find a way.
Alan Poupart covers all things fins and fish for the Dolphins and Dolphins.com. This segment of our WNST programming, an intelligent conversation, brought to you by our friends at King Discount Liquors, lottery, booze, beer, the best prices in Baltimore. Give the King a ring over in Rosedale. It's King Discount Liquors. And don't forget about our friends at Costas Inn, good enough for the Today Show and my mom, crabs and crab cakes and cold beer. The legend continues, and big thanks for all the Dundalk High Hall of Fame love last week at CostasInn.com. You can follow Alan Poupart at A Poupart. That's Poupart. Fins out on Twitter as well as at Dolphins.com and the Dolphin Digest. They're going to run the ball on Thursday night, right? I mean, they sort of kind of want to build this thing around Ajayi. Haven't been able to, but that's still sort of plan A, especially with Matt Moore under center, right?
It's plan A under Matt Moore. It's plan A under Jay Cutler. It's plan A under Ryan Tannehill. That's what got them going last year after they started off 1-4 was they started to establish a running game with Ajayi, and that's what carried them to the playoffs. And this year it's been hit or miss with the running game. Ajayi had over 100 yards in the opener against the Chargers. He had 100 yards in the game against Atlanta back on October 15th. Had no success in either of the 2 games against the Jets. So it's been a hit or miss type of proposition, but there's absolutely no question that if Adam Gase has his druthers, Jay Ajayi gets the ball 22 times, and everything comes off the running game. That sets up everything, including the play-action passes, and then Matt Moore can chuck it down the field after the running game is established.
Quite an amalgamation of players from other teams, though, right? Whether it's, Julius Thomas coming in from Denver, Jay Cutler from Chicago, Sue from the Lions, Alonzo, well-traveled, Timmons from Pittsburgh, Malaluga from the Bengals. There's a bunch of guys who have done this professionally other places and have gone down there to Miami to play for Adam Gase. And I especially think on the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of pedigree over there, isn't there?
Oh, no question. Now, I'll throw out one more name. In addition to the ones you mentioned, that's William Hayes, defensive end, came over in a trade from the Rams in the offseason and then bought a swap of 6-round picks, and the guy has been absolutely fabulous, especially against the run. And then you mentioned the 2 linebackers, Timmons and Malaluga, who have made such a big difference. The Dolphins have not had a linebacker play for a few years now, and those 2 guys are sucking again to the lineup. I mean, you could see the immediate impact and difference that those 2 have made. It's really been impressive to watch, actually. And then two guys who have been very important as well are actually 2 recent draft picks. That's their 2 starting cornerbacks, Xavier Howard and Cordray Tankersley, 2nd and 3rd round picks the last 2 years, respectively. And with those 2, Dolphins have something pretty good going at that position, even though Tankersley did not necessarily have a great game against the Jets this past Sunday.
Wake looks like he hasn't missed a step. I mean, we saw a little bit of that out of Suggs earlier in the year where you're turning back the clock and Father Time, but Wake has been really, really good this year, right?
He's been Wake. I mean, the guy is like clockwork. And you're around him long enough, and then if you get familiar with his routine, as Adam Gage said earlier this week, he's a freak. The guy is like lives, breathes football. I mean, his story is well known by now. The fact that nobody gave him a sniff out of Penn State, had to go to the CFL to get his career going, and he's used that chip on his shoulder forever, ever since he joined the Dolphins in 2009, and he's still talking about being an underdog 8 years later when he's established himself as one of the top pass rushers in the NFL, and he just keeps doing what he's always done. I mean, he's got that tremendous first step off the snap. He just never quits. Already 6 sacks in 6 games. He's on a string. He didn't get a sack in the first game, but he's got at least 1 sack. He had 1 game where he shared a sack, but he's on a streak of games where he's getting the quarterback at 2.5 against the Jets on Sunday. So yeah, he's still playing at a high level, and with him and Sue on that defensive line, and they got Charles Harris, rookie first-round pick, who's come on lately, making himself a little bit more noticed with the pass rush. It's a pretty good defensive line to have.
You know, we're disappointed in our defense in general. We thought it would be better than this, and certainly not as injury-ravaged as our offense. I think the Dolphins' offensive line, when I looked down and I saw these names back during the preseason, Tunsil and Pouncey and Bushrod and James, I thought, well, you know, they could be a top 10 line. They certainly built the thing around Tunsil, who was advertised as being the best player in the draft last year before the Bong gas mask video surfaced, and I was just expecting him to be at least the equal to Ronnie Stanley, if not better. I thought the Dolphins had built something on the O-line. That's been a disappointment, right?
It's been inconsistent, I would say that. There's been some injury issues here and there, and even last Sunday against the Jets, they lost Tunsil. Pouncey came out for a play. Jawan James, the right tackle, came out for a play. Now, as the Dolphins prepared for this game, there was a question mark as to whether they'd get Tunsil in the lineup for the Ravens game. So there have been some injury issues at that particular position. The left guard position was supposed to be handled by Ted Larson, who came over from the Bears as a free agent in the offseason, but he's been on the pup list the entire year because of a biceps injury. Dolphins are hoping he's going to come back soon. He could help make a difference as well. But yeah, I would say it's probably fair to say that if you were to look at what the expectations were heading into this season, that perhaps those have not been met. But the O-line has had its moments. It's been okay. It's not been terrible. It's not been great. But Tunsil has started to play a little better the last couple of weeks. So that's encouraging because he's a guy who's obviously plays that all-important left tackle position, and he does have all the athletic ability in the world. So I think the ceiling is very high for him, and again, he has been playing better of late. The hope, of course, was that this week was that his injury wasn't going to keep him out for very long. Hopefully, it wouldn't keep him out at all for any game.
We are having another Intelligent WNST chat with Alan Poupar of Dolphins.com. He's down there doing all things Fins. They're coming up here on Thursday night. All of it brought to you by Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need Freedmont's education online. Visit them at FreedmontMortgage.com. We talk about your division, and our division was always about beating the Steelers. I'm a baseball fan, and we're in this division with the Yankees and the Red Sox. And as Orioles fans, you sort of know you're going to have to overcome that. With the Patriots the last 15 years, you guys, the Jets, the Bills, all had to deal with this. This feels like the first year that there's been a little crack in it, especially defensively. Like you can actually gain yards, you can actually put points up and score touchdowns on a Bill Belichick defense. That has sort of opened the door a little bit, and the fact that you don't see them till later in the year allows the Dolphins to get better, maybe to get Cutler back healthy by that point. There is a part of this where the Patriots don't feel like the big bad wolf that they've had, that they have been in previous years, and I think, for the Bills and the Dolphins, there is a little crack and a little bit of light, right?
A little bit, but the problem is the Patriots are the Patriots, and there are times when they don't play necessarily great, and yet they find a way to win, and then they have their games where they're operating fully functionally, and they're the Patriots again, and they can blow somebody out at the drop of a hat. You look at their game against Atlanta on Sunday. This was a situation where maybe you're thinking the big revenge factor, even though you can't equate a regular season game with blowing a 23 lead in the Super Bowl. But still, I think the expectation a lot of people had was that the Falcons were going to get some revenge, and then Matt Ryan would have a big game against the Patriots. And, well, guess what? They hold them to 7 points. The thing early in the season, the Patriots defense looked very, very vulnerable. Not quite as much the last couple of weeks. And then you still have to deal with that offense and Tom Brady. All that being said, I think entering the season, I mean, there were some people who were talking they might go 19-0, which was kind of a little bit ridiculous, but still, that's kind of the aura that they had. Obviously, we know they're not anywhere near that type of invincible team that some might have projected, but they're still very, very good, and it's still going to take quite an effort to get past them in the AFC East, and it's still all about beating the Patriots if you want to win that division.
You know, we talk about resiliency so much around here, and the Ravens trying to keep it together amidst all these injuries. We just left Minnesota where their third-string quarterback, Case Keenum, no Teddy Bridgewater, no Sam Bradford, they're winning games. Dolphins coming in here, no Ryan Tannehill, no Jay Cutler, trying to win a game. And I think more for the Dolphins, the situation with Chris Foerster, who I consider a friend, and I knew when he was here in Baltimore, obviously a very unfortunate set of circumstances with the cocaine and the video and that incident down there. You had the Lawrence Timmons AWOL thing going on down there as well. Jay Cutler even coming in on the back end of losing Tannehill. There's been plenty of drama going on there, Alan, and they're 4-2. That's really not a bad place to be after all the problems they've had, right?
Not at all, and it speaks again to the kind of culture they've established under Adam Gase, who basically, the more time you spend around him, the more you kind of appreciate what he's all about, which is basically he's very, very confident in his ability, borderline cocky, but a good cocky because he's obviously a very successful guy, head coach at a very young age, and producing at a very young age as a head coach. And the team has adopted that attitude, and he's projected that onto his players, that basically, again, no matter what happens, we're going to deal with it. It's not going to affect our preparation. You talk about the other factor you didn't mention was having to be displaced and spending an entire week in California while some of them hadn't been home right after the hurricane. So as they're preparing for the Chargers for the season opener, they're home 3,000 miles away. They don't know what kind of damage is to their house, and they have to focus on the Chargers. And what happened is they won that game. So it's a team that's, I think the best word to use is resilient. They're extraordinarily resilient, and that comes from the head coach. And it's also a team that's got some talent. It's not, they didn't get the 4-2 pure simply because they're very good at focusing on the task at hand. There's a lot of talent on that team. We mentioned Wake, we mentioned Sue, we mentioned the linebackers, Rashad Jones. Rashad Jones is a former Pro Bowl safety who's really picked up his game the last couple of weeks. On offensive, he went to the Pro Bowl last year. Jarvis Landry is a tremendous receiver who really epitomizes what this Dolphin team is all about when you watch him fight for extra yards with 5 guys on his back, and he simply will not go down. So they're a really, really feisty, determined bunch that just.
Well, Landry's going to catch 100 balls, right?
If you beat them. I'm sorry?
Landry's going to catch 100 balls, man. He's a serious guy. Maybe the most serious guy we've seen around here the last couple of weeks.
Oh, he's a baller. That dude is he is not afraid of anybody or anything, and he will catch the ball. He gets open and he catches the ball, and he makes things happen. He makes things happen after the catch. Yeah, he's a tremendous player.
Alan Poupart covers all things Dolphins at Dolphins.com down there in South Florida, living the good life when he's not watching a hockey game. He is the lead writer for Dolphins.com and the editor of Dolphin Digest. You can find him at A. Poupart, that's Poupart, Fins, that's Alan Poupart. Always great to visit with you, man. Looking forward to seeing you guys up here on Thursday night. And, I am not holding out a lot of hope right now. I make no excuses, but this is not a very good version of Ravens football we're playing right now, Alan.
No, that is true, but the Ravens have been tough on the Dolphins for the years. Hopefully this is the year where things turn around. From our end, obviously.
I would feel a lot better at 4-4 on Thursday myself. We got a deep hole to crawl out of. Great to visit with you, Alan. Appreciate you, man.
All righty, you be good.
You got it, Alan Poupar, A. Poupar Fins, the way to find him out on Twitter. All of it brought to you by DNL Window Tinting. 26 years of tinting everything. Cars, boats, businesses. They put the shades on the sun and they take away the squint. Over in Parkville and in White Marsh, you can find them at DNL Window Tinting. Let them know we sent you in. You can find us out in the Bay at Toyota.com. Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships directly to your email inbox digitally and paper-free and free of charge. All brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. And they also have Planet of Triumphs to get some inspiration there for any of you out there maybe taking on some extra pumpkin spice and eggnog and maybe gingerbread the way I plan to in the coming weeks. Don't forget, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's going to happen first in your pocket, mobile, and all sent to you by our friends at Coons Ford Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. Me, I am a very available individual. Nasty at WNST.net finds me for praise, criticism, and I don't know. Whatever you have on your mind, toss it my way. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.